Hey, what is going on, RoK Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we are back again giving you some more of that good in the hood education and quality information. Today, what I really want to talk about is our fourth part going into our Creating a Jumper Project series. And part four is going to be talking about kind of what the progression, the process stages are for, right, you've got you have your kind of overall idea, you have your vision set, you have your Discord set up, and now you've started, right? So we're going to touch on that process through the kingdom, right? Kind of give you some overviews of what you're going to focus on, and then we're going to do a big bulk chunk of this on, right, once you get to final kingdom, right? What are the focuses based on what you have? Go through a couple scenarios and then kind of give you some tips, some do's and don'ts. Before we get started, as always, make sure you guys sub, like, ring the notification bell, and of course, if you want to join our Discord, you can find a link to that in the pinned comment and description down below. Okay, so right, for the most part, when you're going through your jump process, you are going to already hopefully have a kind of daily to-do list tasks that you're going to get done, right? You're going to be min-maxing, getting to Castle 8. You're going to be leveling commanders, gathering resources, right, advancing your tech as far as you can. Right, you're going to be grinding out the villages, trying to do all the clicks. You're going to be searching for your caves based on the number that you need for each kingdom that you're going to be in. Right, and all of these things will eventually culminate to you now getting to your final kingdom. Now, depending on how big your group is, may also be dependent on what your strategy is going in to the home kingdom. I will lay out just a couple examples of what you could do based on the varying sizes. I gotta enjoy my kid's Mickey Mouse cup. Okay, so let's say that you just have one alliance, and your alliance is, let's just say you have 50, 60 people, right, however many, but your plan is to either fit all those people into one alliance or kind of all go into one province of Zone 1 to where as the member capacity increases, you're just going to funnel those people in. So in this situation, right, depending on where you start, really is dependent, I would say, on how well organized you think you are. I think an easier start would be kind of going to more of a smaller region, not necessarily something that's a little bit bigger, right? An example would be somewhere like here, right, where you just have a lot of territory and a lot of space to work in. Even this territory, right, that's really big. You could consider something, I would say, a little more modest, right? Let me see here. Not necessarily that one. Or one of these corners are probably fine. So something like this, right, is a little bit smaller territory. And then even like this one, Pelia. And again, you'll notice that some of the maps are actually pretty similar. Like this one is actually really small, right? And I'm sure if this hasn't been explained to you already, right, or shown to you, there's 4 different map type layouts that you'll see when you are looking at the 4 different zones, right? Because it goes like A, B, C, D, right? So we're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it resets. So basically what happens is that the map just rotates, right, 90 degrees. And that is dependent on the layout that you're operating in, or I should say the kingdom layout that you're in. An example of this is like if you're starting in Kingdom 1, 2, 3, 4, right, you're going to have layout A as number 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, and then Kingdom 5, it resets and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, or A, B, C, D, right back again. So sometimes just finding, if you're a smaller group, right, you're just some players or one alliance's worth, you may find more success going into a smaller province rather than a larger province, right, which is more area and territory that you have to compete for. Now, let's say you are 2 alliances worth, or let's just say you're multiple alliances. If you're somewhere like in that 2 to 4 range, my recommendation, again, it also does depend on how confident you feel, right? There's always going to be an asterisk there, how confident, how organized you are, how prepared you are. My recommendation would probably be doing something like either buddying up and kind of doing like 2 alliances per province, maybe even 2 to 3 alliances per province. I mean, you guys could even just take the biggest territory and put all 4. in there. You can take the biggest territory and put all 3. You could do 1 alliance per each province. Now, remember, there's 6 provinces here. So now let's talk about, let's say you're like 5 to 6 alliances in your group, right? If you do feel very confident, and this is pretty much like what my standard is that I do for projects that I've ran, is I usually try to always go in with a minimum of 6 alliances. Just because, to me personally, I just don't think it makes... I think it just lowers the percentage chance when you have less alliances in your project or in your group than if you have more. And so because of that, I like to go in with at least 6. If I can do 12 or 18, I'll do it. But again, starting off smaller, right? For some of the average projects that we see being done. But like I said, if you are somewhere around 5 to 6 alliances, you could make the argument of putting 1 alliance in each province. You could double them up and have 2 alliances in 3 provinces, right? If you have 8 alliances or if you have 12 alliances, right, you could do 2 in each. If you have more, you could do 3 in each. You could do 1 in some of the provinces and then 2 in some others. Like if you have 8 alliances and you want to spread out that way, and you'll kind of do, what would that be? Like 4 single alliances in 4 provinces and then 2 double teams in the other 2 to make 8. So again, there's a couple ways that you can do it. A lot of it just depends. Like I said, it all goes back to just how prepared you are, how well prepared do you think your player base is, each of the alliances are in your group, based on what you're going to do. And then also I would say, it's good to scout other jump projects as well. And this is something that you would probably do in that kind of beginning process. Sometimes even before you even start, you'd want to figure out what other groups are jumping around the same time that you are. One of the things I always did for any of the projects that I ran is I always reached out. I was very proactive in reaching out to other jump leads as just a professional courtesy. And I would add them, and then we'd get these players into a group chat DM, right? And oftentimes there could be anywhere from 4 to maybe 8 or so groups that are running. Rarely ever more than 9 or 10 at the same exact time. But and that's mainly because, if you run into the situation where everyone's trying to jump pretty much at the same plus or minus 1 day within a 2 to 3 day period, there's a good chance that you run the risk of all ending up on the same continent. So then it kind of has to come in where, like, we make the group DM, and then we tell people, like, hey, here's our group sizes, here's where we're planning to go, here's the date we're planning to jump to, and then we'll kind of project out what the estimation is for the kingdom that we'd land in, and then we would basically like write those numbers out and say, like, hey, which groups would like what kingdoms. Some people like corner spots, some people like the flex middle spots, some people like to start earlier in the kingdom, some people don't mind where they start. That was pretty much kind of where our group was. Even though there were some projects where we actually liked to start in a certain position or preferred one, but we were okay. Other groups were just super hard set. They're like, no, I'm going to be the first kingdom on this continent or the second one. So just kind of having that open communication can really solve a lot of those potential challenges that could come up, because more often times than not, I would say almost 9 times out of 10, most jump projects do not think about things that can affect the group that are not internal, right? Or the external things that can affect the group. Because most of the time you're just focusing on the internal part of your group, which is everything that has to do with all the players there, all the alliances, the managing, and you're not really thinking about what can factor into your group's success that is not here internally within your Discord or internally within certain chats. And that comes down to something like, hey, where are these other groups going to actually land? So something that you have to consider and take into a factor. Now, right, we're coming back around. So you've figured out where you're going to go, right? You have your placing down, and you are now looking to go ahead and place your center fortresses, right? You're getting ready to do that. The important part here is you got to make sure that you're communicating these things ahead of time, right? You want to communicate to your players, the alliances, right? Sometimes it can even be good just to get an overhead map, and then you write out where each alliance is going. You figure out what are optimal positions for them to place a center fortress, right? So something that you can do, and I'll give you an example of this, is if you minus everything out, you can see the territory, or I should say the province, kind of in its raw, kind of naked way, where there's no territory markers or anything. All you see is the land, and then you see the shrines, right? And I think these are the altars, if I could remember correctly, for the names here. Yeah, so these are the altars, and then let me see here as I screw it. I'm pretty sure the other ones are the shrines, and so these are just things that you're going to want to figure out sooner than later, right? Or sanctums. Ooh, shrines must be zone 2. Right, so you have your sanctums and then your altars here in the provinces, and these are the things that you're going to try and figure out. So an example of what you would want to do is you want to try and figure out where is a good optimum placement, right, for the radius that you're looking at. And where can you put a center fortress that is going to be centered, right, from, and this goes to flagging routes as well, right? But where are you going to place something that is going to be in a centered location where you can reach in the shortest distance, right, from flagging to how many shrines and then, or excuse me, sorry, how many sanctums and then how many altars that you're going to be going for. And then you also have to consider and think about, in addition, right, where are you going to position that's centered, but also is not too far away from the zone 2 gates, right? And then arguably even the zone 1 gates, right? So you kind of have to think about, position to a zone 1 adjacent gate and then a zone 2 gate as well, while considering where do I want to place this that is going to also be considerate to the distance from all the other objectives. And again, these are things that you just really want to think about. Sometimes it's good to go into a map early, even if it's a blank map that is just your same type, your kingdom type, or map layout kingdom type, I guess I'd say. That's a really long words of way of saying it. And you figure out, right, you just kind of mark it out, you distance it out on the province that you're going to go in. You can do a lot of this stuff before you even get there, but hopefully you'll have it figured out by the time you guys jump prior to jumping into Final Kingdom, so players already know where they need to go. Right. So now you're here, you've landed, and right, what is the next, right? What's probably the most immediate thing that you need to do? And we're going to cover this more in depth in some of our future videos, or I should say in the next video. But some of the big things you now need to start thinking about is one, right, doing diplomacy, reaching out to other alliances. You need to look at how other alliances are developing already, right? Were any able to kind of get their center fortresses down as fast as you were, right? That could be an indication also on how organized or how not organized they may be. Are you seeing, right, doing player recruitment, doing advertising, reaching out to other leads to try and put your mission, your vision, your objective out there? Again, there's a few things that you're really going to want to be focusing on when it comes to how you're going to be playing out the early stages of Zone 1 and how those things can really affect how you're going to go in and transition for Zone 2 and Zone 3, because how you work with other alliances, other players on the map, right, is really going to, just in your kingdom, can be good first impressions, bad first impressions. Those can be lasting impressions that end up carrying with you through the duration, that could end up factoring into kind of future diplomatic relations on whether or not people are going to work with you or not. Again, there's a lot of factors that go into that. So I'm going to pause this here for our part 4, I think, that we're on now. But again, like I said, the next part here is going to be mainly covering a lot of what you're going to do on how to fully develop your Zone 1 and then kind of getting you ready for Zone 2. And then we'll do Zone 2, then we'll do Zone 3, then we'll kind of get to migration and some of the other areas and kind of pre-KVK. So again, a couple more parts here in this series, but I'm hoping that these videos are really going to help if you are interested in starting up a jump project, and a lot of things to consider and think about, right, even for when you are leading up to Final Kingdom and finally get in there for Zone 1. That's pretty much it for me. Again, I'd love to know what you guys think. Please feel free to leave me some comments down below. And I'll be happy to take a look at those. Again, whether you agree, you disagree, right? If you had similar experiences, if you find these helpful at all in any capacity, I'd love to know. That's it for me. Until next time, we'll catch y'all later.